Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. Today will be a very different podcast. Today, I will attempt to channel my higher self. I've done this publicly one other time in the Aura sessions for RealityCon 1. I was fortunate enough to have someone go through some questions and I answered them using my higher self. I have discussed channeling on several episodes, as well as the higher self in several episodes. I have never attempted to channel anything else but my higher self. In my own opinion, oftentimes when you see a channel, it's actually someone's higher self. Bashar even claims the same thing. So what I'm going to do is channel my higher self. I've posted in the group a couple of times for questions to be asked. Additionally, I have asked questions, and a lot of this will be in the flow of the moment. Me personally, I like to cleanse my space, to meditate before I do this, to eliminate the ego and the small self as much as possible, to find the voice within me. Sometimes I hear words and sometimes I see images. Sometimes I'm pulling up something I've heard before and I'm refining it. Ultimately, it is me speaking, and you could look at it several ways. It could be a channel. It could be a way for me to communicate with you without requiring evidence and asking some higher part of me to answer questions in a different way. I recommend that everybody try to connect with their higher self. Try the meditation I have, connecting to the higher self. It is a powerful process. There is a part of you that you can come into contact with that is discussed in the Law of One material. Your higher self is you, millions of years in the future. It knows everything that's going to happen to you in this moment. It's lived this life and has the ability to change. When I interviewed Jim McCarty about the higher self, he also explained that you can in fact contact your higher self. There is a process that we can go about doing that. Oftentimes, I have a very declarative affirmation at the beginning. I ask to eliminate my ego and small self, to connect to my higher self, and in this connection to communicate in service of others, not violating the free will of anyone in the best interest of all. I ask that this channel be clear and guided by the highest of Holy Spirits, and challenge this channel against God Himself, the Christ, it is an honor to speak with each and every one of you. For all of you are soulmates. I know all of you very well. My memories run deep of each and every one of you. And it is truly a delight to communicate with you in this fashion. Brian asks me what my name is, who I am. There is no need for naming, for I remember all my names from all my past lives. Once you reach this level, the use of language and words becomes irrelevant, and the use of naming is unimportant. I am directly attached to Brian as his higher self. Brian asks me if the higher self that he is channeling is the same for everyone or individualized. I answer it to envision it very much like the ocean flows from a river. There are lakes and streams along the way. The source of the river flows into the ocean itself, and each becomes its own individuated entity, still flowing like water, yet at the same time finding a place in time and space in which an abundance of the water can flow together. This is the higher self. Brian asks me why there is a need for the higher self. The higher self became a natural byproduct of the expansion of the soul many, many universes ago. In this process, once the soul transcends time and space, it goes back and leaves an entity, which is the higher self, before it moves to the next density or level. In this process, this entity becomes a guardian angel, a protector, who is aware of the cause and effect of all the paths that person goes upon, and has not only lived a single incarnation, but every incarnation in the multiverse is available within the realm of the higher self. Brian asks what his purpose is. The idea of a purpose is an unusual term. We all have multiple purposes when we move into incarnation. At the highest level, your purpose in incarnation is to grow closer and to understand the one Creator. This process is different for every individual. In this process, you are very much like a flower that blossoms differently than any other flower, utilizing the knowledge and understanding of the higher self. An intuition is created, a feedback in time and space that, once realized, can be your conduit to a larger universe and a greater way to access knowledge and information. The higher self will be a fundamental part of your consciousness in future incarnations. Now, you simply don't know that it's there. The higher self is always there, at all times, ready and willing to help you. It is aware of every feeling that you have and remembers everything perhaps more than you do. For memory changes as you ascend to higher levels of consciousness. Your memory comes from a larger mind with greater clarity and understanding. You have walked in an abyss of darkness for a very long time, for many reasons. This abyss has given you the opportunity to make a critical decision that will change your future incarnations. This darkness that you've entered into is like manure growing that flower. It's important. It plays an important role. It individuates the smaller self from the larger universal mind. Brian asks, is the higher self the same as the universal mind? The higher self is directly connected to the universal mind with an individuated sense of the soul path of one individual through many different multiversal incarnations. As a result, because of the multiversal implications of that single soul, it is very much the same as the universal mind, and higher selves connect to form a different version of the universal mind. There are levels that you access when you access the ultimate mind of the universe. The universe itself is a mind, a consciousness, and the stars and the planets are cells in a body. Brian asks, what is happening on Earth at this time? Brian asks these questions often, and I often give him as many detailed answers as I can. But the process the Earth is going through right now is one of the most amazing and incredible things in all the known universe. An entity is being born within the womb of the human mother. Imagine the same thing. One sperm enters into an egg, and then a process begins in which cells begin to form different parts of the body. The foot, the heart, the mind, the spine, the eyes. You play a part very much like one of the cells building up this embryo. The Earth is an egg. Recently, Brian saw a short film on YouTube called The Egg, which is incredibly accurate in the way the Earth is born. Every time you think a thought or feel a feeling, it is recorded in the Akashic record. Your interaction with this Akashic record is a fundamental and critical part. Imagine yourself very much like the sperm, entering into the egg and awakening the new Earth. Just you. You're the one that awakens it. You're the one that is in the process of fertilizing the egg. Slowly, this entity begins to form. It forms a mind and body, eyes to see, ears to hear, and many other organs. Each of the entities within this entity also raise in their levels and grow into fundamentally different levels of existence and consciousness in coordination with the whole. It is a beautiful and wonderful process, and you stay individuated the entire time, but at the same time becoming a part of something greater. And slowly it feels as if you are the individual that's awakening in the egg of the Earth, when in fact you are a part of it. You as an individual play a fundamental role in the birth of this entity. There are many entities throughout the universe that have been born in this way. Each entity carries the entire Akashic existence of the planet itself. Every thought, every being, every life lived in the first person, as Brian would say. This is very difficult to understand. And in no way are you being marginalized as nothing but an insignificant cell. You are fundamental to the creation of this, and you are it at the same time. You are the entity being born. You have been born in different ways before, and now you are in the process of entering into an incarnation as an even larger entity. The universe that we exist in is nothing but an illusion, a very detailed holographic illusion in which you are being given several tests, many choices, and educated in many different things in the lessons of love and creation. Brian asks, what can I do to help this process along? This is an important question to ask, and in the process of asking the question, you will get the answer. Humans have never really understood the power of the question. All questions are answered in due time. When you ask questions, the entire universe attempts to give you the answer. Many simply do not ask questions. Everyone plays a completely unique role in the birth of this entity. You play a fundamental role. While the Creator has given you free will, this free will is a fundamental part of the process. You, in your own incarnation, actively join in the process of the birth of this entity. Everyone that takes part in the birth of this entity enlivens and enriches the Creator in many ways. but it has to be done through free will and understanding. Brian asks, is there a particular meditation that I can do that will help with the process of this birth? All meditations are fundamental to this process. Going through this process of awakening the mind and connecting to the higher levels and the upper rooms of the consciousness is a part of the meditation process. Within meditation, you slowly awaken internal senses. You hear the voices. You get in touch with the feelings in your body. It is very difficult and very easy at the same time. For many reasons, because of the veil that you've been given, it is difficult to harness the mind. The mind is very much like what you would say a horse is, that you ride along, trying to control it. Oftentimes, you can bring it to water, as they say, but you can't force it to drink. Many catalysts and lessons are given for you to understand this process. Slowly, as you awaken in meditation to the power of your mind, by imaging something on the interior and seeing it expressed in the exterior, you begin to see that your mind is reflected in the world around you. At first, your fundamental goal is survival, so you focus on money, material wealth, so that you can own the house that you need, to buy the car that you need, to clothe yourself and feed yourself. These are a fundamental part of your process of individuation and growth. Each function and activity that you go through in learning the ways of your mind raises your understanding of the process of consciousness. Once you have mastered the process of harnessing energy with your mind and changing the reflection around you, you begin to see that the reflection around you is you. The people in your life that you meet are you. In this process of identifying the linkage in unity between you and others, you begin to have a greater influence and understanding, shaping the exterior world to your whims. As you begin to master this process, you stop worrying about what you're going to eat, how you're going to make your next mortgage payment or your car payment. You begin to move to higher levels of understanding and consciousness. You seek out ways to help others find their own techniques of survival. As you move up to this next level, as you move outside of the smaller self and your need to survive and your need to clothe and feed yourself, you begin to see the needs of others and utilizing your power in your mind. And as Brian likes to refer it, the imagination. You begin to imagine for other people. You imagine that they are clothed, that they are fed, that they are happy and joyful. As you become better and better at this, you fundamentally become even more secure in the environment around you, with greater resources and abundance in the process of helping those others. And energy begins to flow through you. This energy flows through you to each of those that you imagine. As you continue to meditate, imagining for other people, the circle that you imagine for begins to expand. You begin to imagine for your neighbors. You begin to imagine for people down the street that you don't know, for people in other countries, in other states. And you continue this process of imagining for others. In many cases, it's as simple as sending love to them from the heart. In others, it's specifically imagining a conversation or event that will help them to find the survival that they need. Once the entire group of people that you're imagining for feel comfortable, feel secure in their survival, together they begin to coordinate and imagine and think as a single unit, yet individually at the same time. There is no comparison for your understanding of this sort of consciousness. It is somewhat similar to the queen ant, but if all the ants were the queen ant, so that each of the ants thought and controlled each other. It's the same in this process. An entirely different race begins to form. Scanning through Brian's memories and mind, I would recommend that you read the book Childhood's End by Arthur Clarke. In that book, it will resonate somewhat comparatively with the process of expansion that you're going through. Brian asks, as we connect to the universal mind, isn't the higher self just simply the universal mind? The higher self has access to the universal mind and the individuated universal mind of just your incarnations. Understand the higher self is created once a portion of you moves forward into the next density. The higher self is created. It is both you, but also not you at the same time. You can consider it similar to a robot in your literature, but it is fully functional, conscious being that has been left behind in this illusion to help you along the way. And in the process, the higher selves do connect and form a universal mind. As the higher selves, which are the fundamental part of your subconscious and intuition at the same time, begin to resonate together, they join together while remaining individuated, still functioning at a higher level. You will feel this. You will understand it. There is a process that you are going through now where you are learning to identify thoughts, understand thoughts. Thoughts will come to you and you will realize that these are not your thoughts. This may take time. For some planets, it takes thousands of years, and for others, it can take years to fully evolve. It's been about 9 years now since we entered into an energetic field and environment within the space the planet Earth is moving through. This energetic matrix and environment allows for the creation of another planet at the same time as you exist within this planet. There is a form of mitosis that occurs, and the planet will split into two planets. The mitotic effect, in which the secondary planet is formed, will not be seen with the physical human eye, but will be sensed by the spiritual eye. This will begin to slowly separate over time. You must understand the nature of time and how it affects you now in this moment. Many of your spiritual teachings will say that nothing else occurs but in the now, in the moment. This is incredibly important because everything is happening simultaneously in the now, in the moment. But there is also a conscious perception of linear time, and time is very different in the higher realms than it is for you who can hear my voice. 100 years is like a second. 75,000 years is like a day. Millions and millions of years is not as long as you think. Long time frames are involved in your ascension and evolution. It is very difficult for you of third density mindset to understand this difference in time. Time both becomes faster and slower at the same time. In your next incarnations, you will live for 90,000 years and 100,000 years in many cases. It will move into millions of years. Brian asks, in the next incarnation, can you please tell me about what kind of body I will have? The body that you have in your next incarnation will be a product of the evolution within the new Earth matrix as it separates. This matrix is evolving the human body towards light. It is a misunderstanding to think of your body as a solid. It is a vibrating energy field. All kinds of energy are interacting with your body. You have multiple different bodies that you are not aware of that make up your body. The physical body is a small part of that body. As you evolve, you begin to become acutely aware of these other bodies. Brian has read recent episodes where he has discussed the etheric body, which is a part of this process. You'll become fundamentally tuned to each part of the body, very much like you become tuned in to your hand or your eyes in which you blink. These parts of your body will become magnified. You'll have greater feelings and sensations, and you'll begin to see these parts of the body. These bodies will be made of light. You will fundamentally, over time, learn how to change your body in whatever manner you want. Once you've tuned into the light matrix of your body, you can have as many arms, feet that you want. The beginning of the process, you will look in the mirror and adjust your face and your body. Maybe you'll add hair. But slowly over time, you will simply move into light. This light body that you develop over many, many years, many millions of years, will allow you to travel instantaneously to any part of the universe and have a much more fundamentally direct connection with the Akashic field on this planet, as well as the universal matrix of the mind and the universal mind itself. It is quite comparable to the internet that you use today. You can look up on Google any item and you will get all of the results. Yet, in this case, the results are always perfect and are much easier to understand. As you begin to access this field, you'll become better and better at understanding the information that you're given. In previous incarnations, at different levels, you have been primarily telepathic. For many reasons and your own choice, you have moved from this telepathic form of consciousness. In the process, you have lost some fundamental skills on purpose. It has allowed you to grow in the way that you think, in the way that you interact with your thoughts and energy. When you think telepathically, there begins to be a process that leads you down one spiritual path. Taking away this telepathic ability temporarily allows you to identify your thoughts, to slow down your thoughts, and to give them energy. This is an important process. You are learning how to create realities. As you move into your light body, you will begin to create universes. Anything that you want, you will be able to create. That is why many of you now, in this process of ascension, suddenly find yourselves creating. Some of you are writing. Some of you are decorating your house. But there's a little light that comes inside of you that wants to reshape the environment around you. Maybe it's adding new furniture or doing some art. This is the part that your soul is reaching out to understand this creation process. This system is designed perfectly so that as you learn to create, and as you learn to love, And as you understand this matrix of energy, then you move into higher levels of consciousness. It is a perfect system. Once you're able to create universes, you are connected directly to love, and you'll only create loving universes. As I said, it is a perfect system. And you are learning these lessons. For some, it takes much longer to reach the level of perfect creator. And for some, it's much less. According to the law of one material, Brian asks about becoming service to others, how to do that and what it means. For many of you that are listening to this, you don't understand what it means to be of service. The third density illusion that you're in is purposely very difficult to maneuver. It is a unique playground that allows you to learn fundamental lessons about the self and how it works. In many different planets, in many different universes, we have found that those who only seek survival and enhancement of the self, that it is an incredibly different environment than for those who simply seek to serve others. That is why, after many millions of years, it became a fundamental part of the ascension process to make this choice. Each process of ascension, service to self and service to others, have their own journey, which is important. And there are aspects of you in other multiversal realities that have explored both of these. For the majority of people that are listening, and there are a few that are service to self that I can sense, the majority have a desire to be of service to others, and many simply do not know what to do. You can be of service by sending love to those that are in need. You can be of service once you acknowledge that that is what your desire is, that your choice is to be of service to others. The universe and the pattern of existence around you will fundamentally alter to present options and opportunities for you on a continuous basis to be of service. In many cases, you will find the service to be incredibly joyful and wonderful. You'll be doing things that you love and suddenly realize that you are being of service in those moments. If you are being of service just to get a check mark, to get to the other side, but really don't care, the Akashic knows. Your intentions are always known in this system. So the key is to be of service without any expectation of return. It's a fundamental shift in your mentality. Brian asks, is there like a statistical form that's being put together where my every act is being marked as service to others or service to self? The best way to answer this is that we can immediately see your aura and the colors of your aura, and we know immediately at what percentage of service to others you are. This can happen in a short period of time. You can live your life not understanding this and being of service to self for the majority of the time. And then when you make this choice and you embrace this and begin to take action to serve others, your aura can adjust perfectly to the point in which it allows you to move to higher levels of consciousness into fourth density existence. But you should not be thinking about yourself. This is not about what you need to do to gain something or to earn something. Many of those in Earth incarnation that have reached the point of service to others that allowed them to graduate into a fourth density existence, that allow them to be, as one of the writers that Brian reads refers to as, harvested. Many of them simply choose to be of service with such an incredible desire in their heart to be of service. They simply don't care about graduating or moving on to any other existence, and reincarnate again and continue to be of service to others. It's not about what you're going to get. It's not about what you're going to experience. Once you connect to your heart and understand the lessons of love, a living, intelligent love will enter into your mind and body. And then you will have such an incredible empathy for everyone you meet. And you will see yourself in everyone that you meet. It will be the easiest and most wonderful and joyful thing to do. And as more and more people embrace this choice, which is about to happen on an absolutely incredible scale all over the planet, many are going to make this choice. And the numbers of people that are going to choose to be of service to others is going to change the planet in such a fundamental way that it will completely break down societal constraints and cultural traditions. But it is a process of understanding the self. When you see the person hungry on the street, you will do everything that you can to feed them. When you see the person that is begging you for money, you will do everything that you can to get them the money they need. There will be no doubt. They will fundamentally be you. And if you see people in terrible situations, it will simply be impossible for you not to help. Brian asks, but then can't you just be manipulated or taken advantage of because you're such a nice person? Once you enter into the higher energy, into the higher energies of love and understanding, connecting to the heart and connecting to this intelligent love that's flowing through you, this love protects you from manipulation in those ways. You will start to have reflections in your environment of people that need service. They will seemingly come to you perfectly. You will not need to question their motives because they will be placed before you to learn these lessons. Some will learn lessons of manipulation that are a fundamental part of their unique soul's journey. You are going through this process, and you can judge by the way you feel about others, in particular, the way that you feel about people that in the past perhaps you hated or were angry by. A part of the third density illusion is the creation of hate for people of other races, colors, creeds, political parties, and a variety of reasons are given for you to hate or be angry about these people. As you move into what Brian recently read Paul Selig refer to as the upper room, and as Brian's discussion of the law of one into the fourth density, you will find it impossible to hate your other self. You will find it impossible to be angry. You'll have a greater understanding. Much of what happens is you understand that you've simply been in a role, in a play. You over there are the Republican. You over there are the Democrat. You over there are the African American. You over there are the white man. You over there are a part of whatever it is. These false identities that you've created, you begin to understand. And part of that is the nature of hate and anger. As you move into this higher level, you will be able to read minds again. You will have a telepathic understanding of individuals. You will see the nature of their ways and understand their motivations. It will simply be impossible to hate. Brian asks, should we be concerned about apocalyptic changes like pole shifts and wars or volcanoes and earthquakes? There are many that will want you to be afraid, that seemingly come from a place of love. This fear is more dangerous than any earthquake, than any natural disaster. It's important to understand as you connect to the higher levels of consciousness. In this process, you connect to the sun and the earth. A protective area is created around you. It encapsulates you into a perfect energy that protects you from these events. You'll be given intuitions, ideas, warnings from your higher self, telling you to move or to go on vacation when some event may occur. In many cases, the earth and sun will actively protect the area that you're in, and you may see all kinds of pandemics and terrible things happening all around you, and you simply don't worry about it except to be of service to those that need it. This process is important. Each reality bubble begins to form as you connect to the earth, as you give birth to this new earth entity, as you connect to this Akashic record, meditating and making the choice to be of service to others. A field of energy is created around you and a field of reality. While those that are deep in their fears and angers will create bubbles of reality as well. As you create this new reality and imagine a loving reality, utilizing the power of your mind that you have now become very used to using, that is second nature to you. As you use this, you start to change the world around you. You start to see a world that doesn't have these terrible events happening. You find yourself in safe and wonderful places, and you find yourself in situations where you can be of great service. If you find yourself in a natural disaster, it's best to assume that you've been placed there because you can be of great service to those people. You will often find many resources that you are taken care of in whatever the situation is. Once you choose to be of service to others, what happens is that everything starts to work, as Brian refers to your advantage. This advantage matrix begins to form around your every thought, heartbeat, and decision. You may have things that come up that frustrate you, that anger you. But remember, you're within the matrix of advantage. And in this process, everything starts to work perfectly for you. You find yourself in the perfect house, in the perfect location, with the perfect friends that are helping you to be of service to others. It is a perfect system. If you find yourself in an environment where you're caught up in these sort of natural disasters and apocalyptic type of events, simply go within. Remember, you are seeing a reflection of the world around you. And if you've reached that point, you perhaps have forgot that you are reflecting some internal part of you, and the apocalypse that you see around you is coming from your heart. Each of us, eventually, as we develop along this path, become aware that we are centered in a multiversal reality that is all one self. We are slowly becoming aware of this and our separation from this universal mind. It is my job as your higher self to guide you along on this path so that you can merge with the Creator. It took Brian a long time to even do this episode, to channel his higher self. And I just want to end by saying, you are love. Love, to many of you, is a cliche that you simply don't understand. It is not romantic love. It is so much more. You are love. This love is the most amazing power in the universe. This love created the earth and the sun and all the stars. This love continues to grow a wonderful and amazing universe designed for your own personal education. You are the Creator. You have the power of the Creator. In this moment, anything is possible. You can create and imagine anything that you want. You have chosen in this third density illusion to have a linear time stream that causes you to wait for the thoughts that you have to occur in the future. In future densities and levels of consciousness, you will immediately see what you create in your mind. One of the fundamental structures of third density illusion is that when you imagine in your mind, there is a delay and a process that goes about creating the reality around you. This reality attempts to not be obvious in its exact duplication of the thoughts that you have. You will, over time, learn to see the connection between when you thought something and you begin to see it in your reality. When you understand this, it's very important that you understand that everything that you see all around you, the chair that you're sitting in, the phone that you're using, everything around you was created in your mind. It's very important to understand that you have created this environment, every part of it. There's nothing that you can see that you did not create. Well, you can say, somebody else wrote this book that I have next to me. You wrote that book. You invited that book into your existence. So it's important for you to understand that anything's possible, and if you access this power of love, you can change the world. You can save people. You can heal people. There's so much that you can do, and so little time within this density for you to do it. So embrace this loving energy at a minimum. Become aware of it. Focus on it. Ask yourself the question, how can I bring love into this moment? You'll have many situations arise in your families, with friends, in businesses that are purposeful, that are coming up right now for you. And it's a test. It's a test for you to understand the lesson of love. Many times you will find that you are the only love in any situation, and it is important that you learn to express that love, because you are fundamentally responsible for the love in that situation. You've reached a level of spirituality just by listening to this that is very different, vastly different from many of the people around you. Do not judge yourself as superior to others. It just simply means you're farther down the path than those other people. They are on the same path and will reach the same point that you're at, but you can help them out. You can show them the way so they don't get lost on this path. You can provide the light that they need to find the way down this maze of spiritual existence. You are fundamental in the Creator's creation. It is important that you understand how incredibly important that you are. We can't do this without you. It is fundamental that you begin this process. We need you desperately. The planet needs you. The whole universe is watching you right now to see if you make the choice of love. And I will end it there. I understand what's happening is I am just channeling the words that come into my mind, and it's very likely that it's just me. When I first started doing this, I would say, how can I know if this is just me thinking these thoughts, or it's really some separate entity? I'm not claiming to be channeling anybody else but myself. It's an aspect of myself that can speak with authority and knowledge. And oftentimes I get amazing answers to questions about things that you might be asking, like, what's it like in the universe? How do we travel faster than the speed of light? And I get answers all the time. Many of them I've forgotten. I've gotten to a point where I communicate with my higher self. I will get an answer. Of course, there's always the doubting Thomas within me, always. And I will say, that's just me thinking or being creative. I wanted to present this to you as just a format for you to understand how I channel my higher self. I ask it questions, the higher self gives me answers. It is me answering the question, But in many ways, perhaps I'm just role-playing. Oftentimes it feels like my higher self is something else coming through. There were several times when I felt like I was intervening and I would pause and then start again. So every time I do this, I get a little bit better at it, and I'm super impressed by people that can channel. I think that it's harder for me to channel some other entity because my mind is going at such a pace. It's hard for me to slow it down and block it out so that I can listen to that other voice. And so many of you may be better at that. I would love to get your opinions on the proper ways of channeling. And if you have further questions, put the questions in the comments, and I will have a future episode where I will ask those questions, the ones that really inspire me. I'm really honored that my higher self allowed me to do this. I've asked my higher self to do this many times and have not had the desire to do this. There's a part of me that's embarrassed by it. There's a part of me that thinks it's a little bit unusual. It's the same voice that anybody that channels probably has. I leave it for you to judge. Perhaps these questions were answered completely incorrect. Maybe you found a contradiction. I don't know. That's what my higher self told me. I will continue to do this to refine my ability so that you can learn how to communicate with your higher self in the same way. I envision a future in which we're constantly in contact with our higher self. Should I take this? Nah, it's not going to work out for you. Can I help them? Yes, you can. We can do this. When your higher self becomes an ally that you can rely on, that helps you out, and then you can slowly improve the timeline that you're in, the people around you, the planet that you're on, everything's going to change. There is a fundamental part of you that's deep within, that has deeper knowledge. It is your subconscious mind, as Joseph Murphy would say. I believe that it's even more than that. So I ask you in future meditations to explore this connection that you have to this wiser being that's within you. In any case, you can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. And welcome to The Reality Revolution.